Khan, good morning and welcome to Good Morning with Thai PBS World. I'm Nat Bunag.
And I'm Hatay Tiranan. And kickstarting the program this morning with political protests, Amnesty International has urged Thai police to speed up their investigation into the shootings at a protest on Monday, especially as 3 teenagers were shot. One still remains in critical condition in a coma. The international rights NGO has called for a speedy probe into the shootings as a 14-year-old who was only passing by near the area of the protest was shot in the shoulder. A 16-year-old was shot in the foot and a 15-year-old was shot in the neck and is still in a coma as the bullet was stuck in his brainstem. Police insisted, though, they did not use live rounds and that it was someone else, the so-called third party. They said that only rubber bullets have been used, and the father of the 14-year-old boy has filed a complaint with the police to demand the culprit be brought to justice. The 14-year-old is now safe, though, and was discharged from hospital yesterday, though the incident took place around the same time as the violent clash between hardcore protesters and police on Monday. The victim believes he was shot by some other teenagers who were not really involved in the demonstration. The boy was actually on his way home on a motorbike when he passed a group of teenagers near the police station and was attacked. It was discovered later that he had been hit with a round from a firearm.
Meanwhile, police have arrested 3 anti-government protesters, including a leader of the vocational students who formed the hardcore element of the Talukfa demonstrators engaged in street battles with the police in the past weeks. 2 police officers were injured during the clashes with protesters from the Talukfa group at Dindang intersection on Wednesday.
And police also repeated their stance again to the parliamentary committee. Yesterday, Kunat, the committee is actually on justice and human rights, that the crowd control measures, which include the use of rubber bullets, tear gas, water cannons, and batons, are within international standards after being summoned to clarify their conduct by the committee, following reports by members of the media that they have also been impacted.
Right, and police officers have instructed reporters to duck when they fire the weapons in recent protests, which is very helpful as of course, it is no fun at all being hit by those weapons, whether it's rubber bullets or water cannons. And many of the international human rights groups believe that police should not be using force against the people, and that includes people of the media as well.
Exactly. Because, but we actually see something quite interesting where police were quite helpful to reporters, instructing them to actually try to avoid the area of the clash and not to get also impacted by such weapons.
Exactly. And now let's move on to the issue of COVID-19 vaccines. And we're still going to keep talking about it as not everyone has been fully inoculated against the virus yet. Recently, a plan was proposed to mix and match vaccine brands to combat the Delta variant, which has been spreading rapidly across the country. And it seems like there is supporting research to prove that the mix and match vaccines do actually work. A mix and match approach in which a Sinovac vaccine shot is administered as the first jab, followed by AstraZeneca as the second jab, yields better results against the Delta variant of the coronavirus than 2 doses of Sinovac, and as well as the same efficacy as 2 doses of AstraZeneca, according to Thailand's Medical Sciences Department and Sirirat Hospital. Dr. Supakit Sirilak, Director General of the Medical Sciences Department, said that people inoculated with 1 dose of Sinovac and AstraZeneca for the second dose have higher antibody levels compared to those inoculated with 2 doses of Sinovac and the same levels as those inoculated with 2 doses of AstraZeneca. However, AstraZeneca for the first dose and Sinovac for the second dose is not recommended. He also revealed that using AstraZeneca as a third booster dose after having 2 doses of Sinovac will increase the immunity levels by up to 11 times compared to using Sinopharm as the third booster shot, which will increase immunity levels by only 2.5 times. And the testing was done using the plaque reduction neutralization test on 6 group of volunteers. So within the 6 group of volunteers, there are groups that are vaccinated with 2 doses of Sinovac, 2 doses of AstraZeneca. Some have 1 dose of Sinovac and the other of AstraZeneca, and other groups were inoculated with 2 doses of Sinovac and third booster shots as well.
So in terms of the vaccination rate in Thailand, more than 25 million doses of vaccine have been administered to date. And of these, a majority or more than half is still the Sinovac from China, followed by 10 million doses of AstraZeneca, 2 million doses of Sinopharm, and about 300,000 doses of Pfizer. And speaking of Sinovac, Thailand has received a total of 24.5 million doses of this Chinese vaccine so far, and is still ordering 12 million more doses, even though the initial plan at the beginning of the year was only 2 million doses of the make. And with this, there has been a lot of criticism that the government is ordering this Sinovac vaccine, still more of them, considering studies that prove its lower efficacy, especially against the Delta variant, compared to other vaccines.
And back to the issue of the mix and match vaccines, currently there are a few countries that are using the mix and match approach to increase herd immunity and to combat the Delta variant. Although the WHO previously said that the idea was a dangerous move as there was not enough data about the health impact of the mix and match idea, many of the countries still decided to go ahead with this idea, including Thailand as well.
So we will see more of the Sinovac vaccines. And of course, since we already order up to 61 million doses of AstraZeneca,
right,
and this mix and match approach seems to be the way forward, especially that we are waiting for mRNA vaccines later in the year.
Exactly.
So this will be something that is going to be in use in the near future.
Right.
And let's now take a look at other stories making the headlines in our daily roundup. Turning to COVID infections in prisons, which are still spreading with more than 100 cases reported a day recently, despite the bubble and seal approach, possibly due to the arrivals of new inmates. A core anti-establishment protest leader, Panasya Rung Sithitirawattanakul of the Thammasat Group, and a number of first aid volunteers yesterday submitted their written plea to the Justice Minister to take better precautions against the COVID-19, as some inmates are still infected, including detained protesters such as Rung's friend, Parit Shiwarak, known as Penguin. They urged strict screening of new inmates, and the corrections authorities published the test results for the sake of transparency. The ones at high risk should be separated, and that supplies of masks, disinfectant, and test kits should always remain sufficient.
Meanwhile, Samut Sakhon province launched its campaign to inoculate children aged 12 to 18 with Pfizer vaccines. Those children who wish to be inoculated must have their residence in Mueang district of Samut Sakhon province. The inoculation will be organized this Saturday from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Landmark Shopping Center, where parents of children who are eligible can walk in to get their vaccinations.
That's some good news indeed. And next up, the Thai government is considering sending its bid to host the 46th World Heritage Convention in 2024. If this is to happen, it will be the first time in 26 years for Thailand as a host. And according to Deputy Prime Minister Prawit Wongsuwan, Thailand has the capacity and readiness to host international conferences. So about 2 more years ago, Kunat, and of course, hopefully the pandemic would ease up by then.
Definitely. And Kutatai, from next week on August 24th, kratom plants can be cultivated legally, and its leaves, which contain psychotropic alkaloids, may be sold commercially in Thailand with impunity. Just over 1,000 people serving prison terms for offenses related to kratom plants or leaves will be released as a result of the enactment of the country's amended narcotics law published in the Royal Gazette on May 26, deleting kratom from the list of Category 5 controlled narcotics.
So the mitragynine in kratom actually helps relieve pain, similar to morphine, and help you stay alert, and can even be used to rehabilitate drug addicts, Kunat. But also, like morphine, it can also lead to abuse and even dependence. And some Thai youths in the southern provinces have been abusing known cocktail of kratom leaves and cough syrup to get high.
Exactly. And now let's move on to the issue of global coronavirus. India is still battling against COVID-19, especially with the contagious Delta variant. Today, more than 430,000 people in India have died from the disease. And although the overall situation is still of concern, some Indian states managed to control the spread and curb the spread of the disease as well. Recently, Thai PBS and Khon Kaen University hosted an online seminar to examine how the Indian state of Haryana is dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. And many of the frontline medical personnel there who joined the seminar explained that the battle against the COVID-19 pandemic is similar to a battle without weapons. Therefore, medics have had to learn and adapt quickly since the first wave of the pandemic, while the second wave is much more severe and it's still ongoing. The state of Haryana has a population of about 25 million people, with 7.7 million people infected by the virus, but the recovery rate is as high as 98%. The frontline medics explained that collecting daily information is the most important thing, including information access and exchange between communities and government authorities. At the same time, doctors must take care of all patients, including severe cases who have recovered. But medics' overall mental health is also important.
Exactly. And the medics also reveal that they are constantly learning new things as the virus mutates faster than the medics' knowledge grows. In this online seminar, though, representatives of the Indian government and medical personnel exchanged views with Thailand's Public Health Deputy Minister Sathit Pituttesha and former Deputy Prime Minister Suwit Kunkitti, and discussed COVID-19 management, especially ways to tackle the fast-spreading Delta variant. So this is indeed very interesting. I mean, as I said before, it's good to have good international friends out there, not only to help, but to share this kind of know-how. This pandemic is one of the worst in human history. So we are now all new to any of this, and we can learn from each other. And especially, most importantly, we are in all of this together.
And hopefully from this exchange, Thailand will learn from India on how to deal with the pandemic, as well as how to prevent the further spread of the Delta variant. And of course, not only the information access that is important, but the inclusive medical care for all patients is the most important.
And still on the COVID-19 pandemic, this time, though, is also related to saving the environment as well, as we are talking about plastic waste, which is still a big problem around the world. So the COVID... Oh,
The COVID-19 pandemic is driving the demand for personal protection equipment, known as PPE, around the world and is increasing the amount of plastic waste. Today, Thailand is trying to tackle both challenges at once by using plastic waste to make PPE for frontline medical workers. PET to PPE, a project by the Less Plastic Thailand group, is campaigning to get PET, or polyethylene terephthalate bottles, separated in the recycling system as much as possible to be converted into PPE suits.
เครือข่าย Less Plastic Thailand นะครับเราก็เริ่มต้นจากการที่เป็นจิตอาสาในการให้คำแนะนำในการแยกขยะในงานต่างๆนะครับแล้วก็เหมือนให้ความรู้เรื่องการจัดการขยะครับทีนี้พอในช่วงที่มีโควิดเนี่ยเราก็เลยสังเกตดูว่ามันมีปัญหาสังคมเกิดขึ้นก็คือขยะพลาสติกที่เพิ่มมากขึ้นในช่วงโควิดแล้วก็มีปัญหาการขาดแคลนชุด PPE ครับเราก็เลยคิดกันขึ้นมาว่าจะทำโครงการอะไรเพื่อที่จะแก้ปัญหานี้ก็เลยเป็นที่มาของโครงการแยกขวดช่วยหมอครับ
PPE suits produced from PET bottles can be washed and used up to 20 times. They are made following the standards of the Thailand Textile Institute and Thai Food and Drug Administration. The bottles will be processed into flakes, spun into polyester yarn, woven and cut into PPE suits. These suits will be sent to hospitals to help protect medical staff working to fight the COVID-19 outbreak in Thailand.
สำหรับขวดพลาสติกที่ใช้ในการทำชุด PPE ได้นะครับก็จะเรียกว่าขวด PET หรือขวดเพชรนะครับลักษณะก็จะเป็นขวดน้ำดื่มขวดเครื่องดื่มต่างๆขวดชาเขียวนะครับที่เป็นลักษณะที่เป็นขวดใสนะครับไม่มีสีนะครับแล้วก็ตรงที่ก้นขวดหรือข้างๆขวดเนี่ยจะมีสัญลักษณ์เบอร์1คร่าวๆนะครับก็จากโครงการ1ถึง3เนี่ยเราบริจาคชุดไปกว่า 20,000 ชุดนะครับให้โรงพยาบาลภาครัฐ200แห่งทั่วประเทศนะครับแล้วก็ใช้ขวดไปถ้าคิดเป็นขนาด600มิลลิลิตรเนี่ยก็รวบรวมขวดได้ประมาณเกิน 500,000 ขวดที่ไปรีไซเคิลเป็นเส้นได้นะครับ
In the next phase, they hope to produce at least 5,000 PPE suits. Right now, the project has collected around 14,000 kilograms or around 800,000 PET bottles, which is enough to produce 2,000 PPE suits. There are many PET bottle drop-off points across Bangkok, such as at Siam Paragon, the Panjapiwat Institute of Management, the Get Well Zone shop on Ekamai 26, the Vipavadi Rangsit PTT station, the Vipavadi 11 PTT station branch, the Minburi PTT station, and many more. Used PET bottles can also be mailed to the Yakwat Choi Mo project at Taft Company Limited.
แล้วก็จะเปิดรับไปถึง25 ธันวาเพราะเราก็ไม่รู้ว่าสถานการณ์มันจะยังไงต่อนะครับซึ่งตอนนี้จังหวัดศรีนครินทร์มันก็เพิ่มจำนวนขึ้นเรื่อยๆก็ทางโครงการก็คิดว่าเอา 5,000 ก่อนละกันแล้วก็เดี๋ยวก็ดูอีกทีหนึ่งว่าจะมีการสนับสนุนให้ทำต่อเนื่องหรือเปล่าครับอยากให้ทุกคนไม่ต้องซีเรียสกับการที่จะต้องออกมาบริจาคขวดนอกบ้านอะไรครับแต่ว่าขอให้ช่วยกันใส่ใจขยะที่ตัวเองแยกให้มันสะอาดเพราะว่าถ้าเราทิ้งออกจากบ้านเราแล้วมันก็จะอาจจะเป็นภาระให้คนอื่น
Reported by Gitipat Sukjit for Thai PBS World.
Well, this is definitely a great initiative here, turning plastic waste into PPE suits, which are much needed from the medical personnel and other officials who have to deal with COVID-19 patients as well.
Exactly. And as I said before, Kunad is a perfect example of killing two birds with one stone because we, not just in Thailand, but in many parts of the world, have a huge problem with plastic waste, and PPE suits are also something that we really need.
Exactly. And this is also a great way to create awareness about reducing plastic waste as well.
And with that, Kunad, we also wrap up this edition of Thai PBS World, Good Morning with Thai PBS World. But be sure to also follow us on our website, www.thaipbsworld.com, as well as our social media.
And don't forget to catch our morning show every weekday at 7:30 a.m. only on Thai PBS. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and we'll see you next week. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ